bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear. And today we are sitting with Jason VanSpronsen. Just a little bit of goalie talk, which is a topic that I know a lot of coaches and parents and stuff want to hear more about. And a lot of times we've had a couple goalie guys on, but it's always good to hear kind of what's going on in the industry and what's going on with young kids and stuff like that. But first off, to start off a lot of times like this, if someone saw you on the street, where's home for you? Where did you kind of grow up?
Here.
London, Ontario,
Born,
boy.
raised London. Yeah.
There you go.
Never left, didn't go away for school, didn't go away for anything. I've been here my whole life.
Well, you gotta get out.
33 years.
You gotta get out, bud.
I know.
you gotta experience the world.
Yeah. No, I like to do some traveling. My wife and I try to get away somewhere new every year. So we've been to a bunch of places in the States. We've been a bunch of tropical places every year just to get away from the hockey thing for a little while.
Yeah, that's cool.
Relax and just get away from stuff. I know you know how that is too. Sometimes you just got to go turn it all off, turn everything off for a week and just get somewhere and relax and get away from hockey.
And how nice is it sometimes just to unplug, like just from the texts and the emails and the social media stuff and just kind of, sitting on a beach somewhere, traveling around or touring around. It's kind of nice to get away from it a little bit.
Put it all in the safe and don't even look at it.
Yeah, exactly. And I know being obviously in similar fields as far as skill development, stuff like that, whether it's with goalies or players, it can be a grind. I mean, some days you're in your skates for 7, 8, 9 hours a day if you're doing camps or clinics, and other days it's almost like a split shift. You're on the ice for a couple hours in the morning, you've got a couple hours during the day to do your stuff, and then you're back on the ice after school and at night with teams and stuff. So it's not ideal for families. It's not ideal for wives. It's not ideal, for having a relationship. But it's something that you kind of have to do in order to make a living at it and kind of go at it. You got to do it when the kids are around.
Oh, exactly. Sometimes I'm a little jealous of some of my friends' jobs where they just get to go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're home by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they get all night to rest and relax. And you know how this is too. You're always expected to be on. You always expect to be able to answer phone calls, answer emails. Like sometimes I'll get calls at 10:30 at night from a goalie who just finished a game and wanted to tell me how he did and explain how the game went. And that's good for me because I get notes on how he did, how he performed, and how everything went for him. But at the same point, my wife's sitting there and we're watching TV and she looks at it and she goes, "All right, take the phone call."
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, exactly like you said, it's weird shifts sometimes. Sometimes you're gone for 10 hours straight and you're on the ice for 8 out of those 10 hours. And sometimes you work really early in the morning, you do 2 or 3 hours, and then you got middle of the day catching up on emails and doing stuff. And then you're on the ice for 5 more hours at night, catching team practices or watching games or going all over the place to do all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's a little bit all over the place schedule, but overall it's a lot of fun and something that you and I both enjoy to do.
No, totally. And I think, one of the things I know when I got married, I was heavy into this and grinding it out in kind of the beginning stages, which we'll get into a little bit as we get going on. But, that was a conversation I had with my girlfriend at the time, fiance, then wife, is like, this is what I do. And the summers suck. We're not going to be taking a week or 2 weeks off in the summer because that's our busy time at that point. And I'm going to work a lot of nights, I'll be home almost every night, at that point I'll be home every night, but I may not get home till 9 or 10. And like you said, you get phone calls and emails. And especially now I find over the last bunch of years is parents expect answers right away, and so if they email you or they text you and you don't answer them for a day or two, that can escalate. And when you're a small business trying to grow and you're building your brand and what you do, you don't want bad things being said, right? Your reputation is very important. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to be on all the time,
Yeah, you want to get back to them as soon as possible. But sometimes it's just not possible. Like sometimes you're away on a weekend doing something or you're busy doing family stuff. And I'll give you a perfect example. This weekend, I gave a guy my card on Friday and I got 2 emails and a text message and a phone call with him in under 24 hours because I didn't get back to him right away. Yeah. I sent back to him a message on Sunday. I'm saying like, it's the weekend. I'm sorry. I'm doing some family stuff today. I'm trying to stay away from the rink and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, it's just people expect you to be on all the time. If you don't get a response within 24 hours, they think something's wrong and either you hate them or ignore them or something. And they want to know what the reason is or why you didn't get back to them right away.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's just kind of a society thing, right? That's just the way it is now. Yeah. Everything's quick. And I mean, if your internet has a bubble going around on it because it's working slow, you want to get new internet. This is brutal. I got to wait 13 seconds,
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about the dial-up days and no internet days, right? So for you growing up, like when did you start playing hockey? I know you got a brother and stuff. Were you guys kind of both into it? Was your dad into it or were your parents kind of into sports or hockey or how'd you kind of get pushed into that?
Yeah. So I've got 2 brothers and a sister. And everybody tried hockey at one point, but I was the only one that really stuck with it. My dad wasn't really a hockey player growing up, but he really enjoyed the game. And so he wanted to just start getting me on the ice. And he got involved in Red Circle minor hockey, actually, getting on the board there.
Eric Lindros played there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So he got on the board there and helped out with the equipment and stuff. And so I started out just like any kid playing as a player and switching around, doing all the different positions. And then when my dad became the equipment manager and was on the board, Red Circle was awesome in this regard because they used to give goalie equipment away to anybody that needed it, like a full set of goalie equipment, whatever you wanted. So when you were first starting out as being a goalie, you got a full set of goalie equipment to use for the entire season.
That's
right?
awesome. Yeah.
Whereas a lot of other guys that I was friends that I was with, they had to mix and match little pieces of equipment together here, and I got to go in and pick out whatever I wanted and get brand new set of Vaughn stuff right from the equipment.
Plus, your dad was the guy, so you got the stick of stuff for sure.
I did. I got to go in the night before, whereas everybody else had to line up the next morning at 6 a.m. So yeah, I got to pick whatever I wanted. So that was a big help too. But yeah, nobody really pushed me into it. My dad was just interested in hockey. He enjoyed it, and he wanted to coach. So he got out there with me and taught me how, and then moved on from there. I started probably 4 or 5.
4 or 5. And then at what age did you kind of know that I'm going to be a goalie? Because I did the same. I think a lot of young kids want to play net because net is so cool. You're the guy and you make big saves, and we don't realize how much it sucks when you get scored on or you get lit up in a game. But I know I wanted to play goalie so bad, and then I had an opportunity to try it a couple of times, and I was like, man, this gear is so hard to wear. It was big, cumbersome. Like I'd rather play out, so I stayed out obviously as a player. But at what age did you kind of bite in? Like I'm a goalie. Right
away. So it was in Tyke is when everybody has to take a turn playing net.
Yeah.
And so once everybody had their turn, I went in again, and not many people wanted to take a second turn after that. So I got to play as much as I wanted goalie after that except for the odd kid that wanted to take another try. So right away in Tyke, I played like half that season in net. So, wow. And from there, I loved it. And then starting in novice is when you got to be a full-time goalie. And that's when I was a goalie. That's it right away.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And then going through, obviously played minor hockey here locally, and then played some junior in the area. How did that transition go from kind of minor hockey into junior? Because I mean, players is a little bit different. You've got 6D normally or 7D on a team, 10, 12 forwards, depending on lineups and stuff. But you got 2 goalies basically, right? Mm-hmm. So when you get out of minor hockey, minor hockey has more options, meaning you got AAA, AA, right? But when you get out of minor hockey, what was that like making that transition? Where did you end up coming out?
It was honestly very similar to what it is today. I played major midget AAA, and from major midget AAA, I got tryouts with junior teams, with Strathroy, St. Thomas, I think were the 2. Strathroy was the one I was at the most. And then I ended up playing junior C that first year, I think after major midget. So I must have been 18 then, 17 or 18. And I played for the North Middlesex Stars. And it was a great year there. Me and my goalie partner, we pretty much split games, but we had the winningest season in North Middlesex to that point. They were notoriously a bad team, and so we had a really good season that year. And the goal was to go up and play Strathroy the next year. And I made Strathroy at a training camp, but as junior hockey works, I ended up getting traded to St. Thomas from there. So spent half the season in St. Thomas, and actually ended up playing in St. Thomas with 2 guys that are from London that actually ended up playing OHL and higher too. I ended up playing behind Chris Abbey and Matt Hackett.
Okay, yeah. 2 good, really good goalies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with those 2 on the team, I ended up jumping up and down between junior C and junior B, and there for another year or so, and then that was it.
So going and I mean, I always tell players, man, if you're playing AAA, that's amazing. You're kind of at the top of that minor hockey pyramid, and then every level you go up, if you get a chance to play junior C, like you just narrowed it down to a lot of players never get a chance to play junior, and then junior B is even another step. And as you go up, so anybody who's played, let's say beyond minor hockey, to me, that's, man, good for you. Like that's a feather in your cap. It's awesome. Right now for you, as you're kind of nearing the end of your junior career, you're like, okay, well, maybe not make the NHL, not quite sure what to do. When did teaching come in for you? Because I'm going to assume that during junior, maybe even midget, you were starting to kind of probably went to camps as a youngster, I'm assuming, and then got into teaching after that a little bit.
Yeah. So I ended up taking my undergraduate at Western in kinesiology. And I knew I didn't really want to do a lot of the sciencey degrees after kinesiology. Like I didn't want to do physiotherapy or occupational therapy. So teaching ended up being a good path there. And I thought, hey, like a lot of kids, I want to be a gym teacher. I want to be a gym teacher. So that'd be great, right?
Yeah.
Still not realizing that there really aren't any gym jobs out there for people that want to be gym teachers, right? It's you work in your way as a different type of teacher and you hopefully get that gym job eventually. But so that was the goal, become a gym teacher. So yeah, I was at Western and probably after the first couple years of getting through kinesiology, you start specializing a little bit in which way you want to go after that. So I ended up getting my Bachelor of Arts from Western in kinesiology and applied and got into Althouse at Western as well for teachers college. So probably my second or third year university is when I thought about teaching. And so that's probably right near when junior B was ending for me, junior B and junior C.
Yeah.
And then at that point, because I was going to Western too, I ended up hooking up and getting to know Clark Singer. And I was in actually his hockey class in kinesiology.
Oh, yeah.
And so he found out I was a goalie. And so when you're doing hockey class, you go out there as a player all the time, but he would have fun days where he'd bring me and another guy out as a goalie. And then he asked me to come out to some Western practices too. So that was pretty sweet.
Cool.
For a year or two there while I was in university. I was, whenever they needed a third or fourth guy for practice because other guys are in class or injured or whatever, I got to go out and do some practices with Clark and the Western men's team. So that was a great experience too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
I really actually liked that experience a lot more than actually playing junior C at the time or junior B, because it's very interesting to see the different skill level and how players think. So I was a smarter goalie. I knew what was supposed to happen, but you see it a lot at junior C and junior B. Sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Stuff goes all over the place and broken plays everywhere and all kinds of stuff. So when I was at the Western practice, I actually felt more at ease because they did things the right way. Most of those guys are former CHL players, OHL. And so the way that they did things, and Clark ran a very professional practice and everything was awesome, that it was just things happened the way they were supposed to. So it almost made my job easier because, okay, this is a 2-on-1. My D-man's going to take the pass away. All I got to do is focus on the guy with the puck and I'm going to be good. Yeah. And you see that stuff happen in junior B or junior C. Never happens. Guys are all over the place, don't know their responsibilities. And so it actually slows the game down a little bit. It makes things easier for you at those higher levels sometimes if you know what you're talking about.
I totally agree. And I think even as a player, like when you move up levels, the game actually becomes faster and more intense and everything's got to happen quicker, but it's actually easier because you have players in positions and players are better at playing positions and every level you go up. So I'm not a goalie, but I can totally see where you're coming from where, a 2-on-1 is supposed to happen this way. Now, if he makes a backdoor pass, you're going to scramble as a goaltender, make that save. But realistically, I got shot. D's got passed. This should be not an easy play, but
the way things should be.
Right. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I think sometimes too, when you go, especially when you like hard shots or you like, you have a certain consistency level of what you're getting. And then all of a sudden you go to like knuckle pucks in men's league. It's almost harder, I think, for a goalie sometimes to adjust to the worst speed or the lesser speed of shots and passes and all that kind of stuff,
It definitely can be too. And that's also something that I try and teach coaches as well. It drives me nuts when I show up to a 10 or 11 year old's practice and you've got the assistant coach winding up for a full 40-year-old clapper at a 10-year-old goalie and going, if you can stop this, you can stop everything else. No, not true.
Yeah.
Right. I compare it to the MLB, right? You have fastball pitchers and you've got knuckleball pitchers or you got off-speed pitchers, right? And why do you think those knuckleball and off-speed pitchers are so successful? It's because they're throwing something that's going nowhere near as fast as what a fastball guy is. So it throws off the hitter's timing. It's the same thing for a goalie. If you're constantly pumping in 70-mile-an-hour shots at him, and then all of a sudden the kid he's playing against can only throw in a 20-mile-an-hour muffin that's arcing in the air and not going at the same level when it gets to the net, that goalie's timing is going to be off for everything that he does. So just because you can take hard shots at him, you can stop it, doesn't mean he's going to be able to stop the little 10-year-old shots that's going to be facing him every single game. So you're actually not benefiting him at all by taking those. You're actually making him more gun shy and more afraid of the puck than you're actually doing anything for him.
Yeah, it totally makes sense for sure. And you do see that a lot, man. Dad's out there rolling his sleeves up, like watch this, throwing him off the bar and just firing bombs on his 10-year-old goalie.
Yeah.
And then as far as like the goalie, getting into the kind of goalie instruction and that kind of development piece, did you do a lot of hockey camps when you're like, as far as attending goalie camps and stuff like that on the way up? And then how did you get into basically getting into the goalie side of things?
So when I was younger, I started attending goalie schools. I attended a couple different ones, and then I ended up sticking with Future Pro Goalie School, and I attended that for 4, 5, 6 years or so. And once you start getting a little older, we do this today too, is once you find the older kids in your group that seem like good kids, they pluck them out and ask them if they want to be instructors. So one year, Steve asked me if I wanted to be an instructor, and then the next summer I volunteered for a week and helped out at the goalie school, and I was just a demo goalie on the ice that you see at all these camps. I wore half gear, instructed, helped out with all the kids on all their skating drills and stuff, and just gave them some general pointers. And he liked how I did, and he thought I did a great job. So the next summer he offered me to come back for 3 or 4 weeks, just all the local ones. We did all the local camps together. Once again, thought I did a great job, made a little bit of money, thought this was sweet. So the next summer he asked me to come back and work the whole summer. And from there, it just kept growing and growing. And while I was in university, it was the same thing. I was playing hockey. I was doing schoolwork. And then every once in a while, some coach would say, oh, hey, I know you work at Future Pro Goalie School. How would you like to come out and help with my team's practice? So I'd do that and make a little bit of money for whatever while I was in university. So it was good. Pocket change, right? And gave me some money to do some stuff. So it was good. So that just continued till I was pretty much done university. I would work summers. I would work with a couple of teams throughout the winter, get a little bit of money. I actually, while I was in university as well, started working with the Western women's hockey team.
Cool.
I coached their goalies for a couple of years. So that was a lot of fun and a great experience as well. And then once I was in teachers college, I graduated and couldn't get a job. There it is. Right? Can't get a job. Right?
5 years of school.
You have gym and biology as your teachables. Great. So do thousands of other teachers. Yeah. There's already a whole bunch of people on the supply list. My wife's mom was actually at the time the head of human resources at the London District Catholic School Board. And she goes, do you teach French? Nope. Do you teach music? Nope. Okay, can't help you.
That's crazy, right?
Couldn't even get on supply list, couldn't do anything with those first couple of years that I applied. So had to make some money somehow. So I was working a part-time job at Canadian Tire. And then the other part of the time I was trying to work up some of my goalie contacts and start working with more kids. And some of those young kids that I was working with while I was in university are now in Pee Wee and Bantam. And so they want some more training. And they said, well, can we start doing some private lessons with you? And then eventually just grew from there. It started with just doing a couple practices here and there for a little bit of money on the side. And eventually when I couldn't get a teaching job, it just kept growing and growing into to what I'm doing today.
Oh, it's cool. And I think one of the things I love about that story is for young goalies out there or players out there. I mean, they're, how do you get into this? Because a lot of everyone, if you ask any hockey player right now that's not going to go play in the NHL or college or major junior, whatever that is, hey, would you like to make a living doing something in hockey? 100%. You ask any dad right now, would you like to make a living? Yeah, 100%. I'd love to be in hockey. And how do you do that? And I think your story is exactly that. Like, you're gonna have to volunteer some time. You're gonna have to make crap money. You're gonna have to put in some hours, but get with somebody like Steve or McKeegan is who we're talking about with Future Pro, but get in with guys maybe that are established or girls that have established camps and learn the trade a little bit, become a better teacher. But the only reason why you got more opportunity to do more weeks and do more and get privates because you were good and you put time into it and you were good on the ice and you can teach. And I think that's really important for young kids too, to understand that, man, maybe I can go volunteer at one of SPRONSEN's goalie schools and become a shooter. And then maybe you're running all the shooters and like, there's opportunity there. Now for you, when did it actually sink in that you're like, man, maybe I can make a living doing this? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, it's a part, like people ask me still like, oh, just do this on the side. I'm like, no, it's full-time gig now. Like it's been a full-time gig for me for a long time, but I see how people are like, well, what do you do all day? And you just like, you guys just have naps and stuff. And like, wow, it'd be nice. I used to back in the day. It was great, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Right. And
tons of stuff.
Yeah. So for you, when did that kind of become a realization when you're like, man, I could actually potentially make a living doing this and maybe not teach?
It was shortly after I graduated from Teachers College. It didn't take long for me to start building up some clientele. But I think it was because I had a base going from before, right? I didn't just all of a sudden pick this up and say, I'm going to quit my job and I'm all of a sudden going to coach goalies and make enough money to me to live off of. It was that base of before of starting young. I started instructing and just knowing what I've learned from going to the camps before, but picking up things from other instructors at the camps, picking up things from all the other goalies at the camp too. Sometimes some of the older goalies were a little older than I was. I was working with the young kids and the older goalies were there and I'd pick up things from them that they were doing in the drills and things that they were doing instructing as well. There were older instructors there that were college guys, that were junior guys that I would learn stuff from as well. So constantly learning from all these guys helped a huge amount. I think Teachers College helped me out a little bit too, right? Learning how to teach, learning how to instruct, learning the difference between setup time, instruction time, making sure that you have things set up beforehand so that way you're not just jumping into things and trying to fly by the seat of your pants, right? Making sure that you have the appropriate staff set up, making sure that you have the appropriate ice booked, making sure, so all that setup stuff that that I learned from helping to run the camps that I was working at before, really helped me to establish what I needed to do to make money at this. And it's not something you can just jump into. It's you got to learn from somebody. You got to get that experience. You've got to find out how to do it properly, so that way people keep coming back. I know tons of people, or I've seen tons of people that come to me after working with somebody else and saying, well, this guy's unprofessional. He just doesn't show up sometimes, or this doesn't happen, or didn't have the ice booked, or didn't have shooters, or didn't have this. And I said, yeah, I said, that happens. I said, just unfortunately, it's the business. There's people that just think they can jump right into it without having any sort of exposure or any type of professionalism and expect to make money at it. And it just doesn't work that way. So with me, I think it was a slow burn. I learned when I was younger how to run things. I always had my eyes open, my ears open to learn from older guys, senior instructors, from people running the camps, how to set things up. And then I slowly started taking on more responsibility. I didn't jump all in and try and set everything up and run everything right away off the start. It was, I slowly started taking responsibility for this. Okay, well, I can help you with that. Let me do this. I can do this instead of you this time. I can do this. Let me try this. And then once you get experience running those things, then you can start branching out and doing even more. And then once you sort of get experience with it, it becomes, it's easy. It's still a struggle sometimes, but you know how it is. Sometimes we staff our camp, same with you guys, with teenagers sometimes, and guys to shoot, or guys to help run small groups, and getting those guys to fully commit is a headache. But yeah, it was a long learning process, but it's I feel that slowly learning everything and taking my time to get better at all those things at a slower pace, rather than just trying to jump right in and being overwhelmed by it, sort of helped me grow this into what it is now.
And would you say too, like, because I tell, there's a lot of, and we see it all the time. There's new goalie guy that pops up here, new goalie girl pops up here, new hockey camp pops up here. Because a lot of the times the advice I give the young people is get involved with someone like yourself or myself or whatever, or somebody that in your community that's doing this and that is respected and that has a good reputation and is doing it hopefully the right way. Like being around a guy like Steve and kind of seeing what he did and seeing the business that he's grown. I'm sure that kind of had an effect on you, obviously, things you liked about it, things you didn't like about it, like anybody, right? But being tied to that a little bit, helping maybe get some business from that, because I know at the beginning it is a grind trying to fill hours and trying to make enough money to say, man, I got to pay rent, I got to pay car payment, I got to pay food. Like I got to make sure I'm making enough money. I was the same as you. I had 3 different jobs and doing privates on the side and just trying to get it going. And that beginning part really does suck. If you have someone to help you out a little bit with it, I think that makes that process a little bit easier and maybe helps avoid some pitfalls and stuff. But for young kids, I think it's important to try to get a mentor, a little bit of a mentor, someone that can help you navigate the waters a little bit,
For sure it does. I definitely don't think I'd be at the position I am today without working at Future Pro with Steve McKeegan. For sure. Yeah. It was a huge help. He's been running a successful goalie school for many, many years. So and he's been around for that long because he's done things the right way. Right. And if I just tried to jump right in and didn't have any of that experience before, it's a grind. It's for sure. It's a huge grind. I don't know where I would have gotten a lot of the contacts that I have now. And from working at those schools is where I met a lot of the goalies that I started working with in the first place. So if you don't have anywhere to meet these kids and you're just trying to throw your name out on the internet or trying to run into people in arenas, it makes it real tough. So
and it just makes that legwork a lot more and a lot harder, right? I honestly think you probably would have been fine. It may have taken a bit longer and a little bit more struggles, maybe a little bit more debt or part-time jobs, right?
Maybe still living at home with dad.
Yeah, probably not married for sure. Not married. No. But I think it's important for my big message, I guess, for a lot of these young goalies and players out there is if you want to have a job in hockey, there's a lot of opportunities for it, whether it's analytics, video, doing what we do. But you have to work, and that's the underlying thing is you got to put the time in, man. You got to get around the right people and put the time in and work and not be afraid to maybe not get paid sometimes. And,
Yeah. Time's a perfect word. Like, I don't think people realize that. Yeah. How many hours am I on the ice a week? Maybe let's say 20, let's just throw a number out 20. And some weeks it's a lot more, some weeks it's a lot less, but there are so much other things that you're doing when you're not on the ice. Like the constant emails that are going back and forth at the rink, booking ice. Okay, is ice available here? It's not available here. Okay, let's try and work out another time. Well, the client requested this time. That time's not available. I got to go back to the client, try and find another time that works. So you're constantly going back and forth with parents, with the arena, and then with shooters to try and arrange shooters for the goalies as well. If you're trying to arrange more than one goalie on the ice at a time, a semi-private lesson, going back and forth to the two parents to try and find a time that works. And it's a lot of time on the phone, texting, emailing that people don't see and that people don't realize that you do. And they just think that, hey, I'd love that job if I can just go on the ice like 20 hours a week like you do and I can make a living. That's not it. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes in the setup, in the booking ice, in the arranging of everything that needs to be done behind the scenes in order to make sure that it's a successful camp or successful lesson. And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't see is, I'm going to run a summer camp, or I'm going to run a week-long camp, or I'm going to run March break camp or something. And they just book the ice. Okay. It's great. You booked ice. Great. Do you have drills to do for the entire week? Is the whole week scheduled? Do you have your off ice stuff planned? Do you have your on ice stuff planned? Do you have shooters? Do you have enough quality staff? And then during that week, it's babysitting not only kids, but your own staff, make sure everybody's doing everything on time. So there's a lot of management aspect behind it and a lot of time put in behind the scenes that the people don't see, that it's just the on ice product. Yeah.
And the best part realistically is on the ice.
It's the on ice
product. If I could just go on the ice 20 hours a week and everyone else handles everything else, then that'd be amazing, you know? Have you ever used this line before with your wife? So you're sitting down watching a Leafs game and your wife's like, I wanted to watch this movie. Like, honey, I'm working right now. You ever tried that out?
I may have tried that once.
How'd that work?
May have. It not great.
It backfires a lot. Yeah. My wife's not a big fan of that. But I mean, realistically, if you're watching a goalie that you like or someone that, you know, that you're kind of into, I mean, you are kind of technically doing work. You're doing some research.
Correct. I was actually at a Knights game last night.
Okay.
And my sister-in-law actually bought me the tickets for my birthday. And so her and her boyfriend were there and then my wife and she kept whispering to my wife. And I'm like, what does she keep whispering to you? And she said, it doesn't look like he's enjoying this. And she goes, no. He's kind of in work mode right now.
Dialed in.
Yeah, I was just staring at the goalies and I was constantly analyzing them. Like, what are they doing? Is that a great play? That's a bad play. That was a good goal. This is a bad goal. And just constantly watching them and finding out, like, what are those pro guys doing right now that I can use with the goalies that I work with that want to get to that level?
Yeah.
What are they doing that's different than what I'm teaching right now? And is it a good thing that they're doing or is it a bad thing? Is that just a bad habit that they haven't been able to break out of? Or are they doing something new and different that I could be incorporating into something that I'm working with my goalies on a daily basis? Sure. And constantly trying to learn that stuff and keep up with the game is a huge part of the coaching process.
Now in that game, now I know their goaltender, is it Shaw, their goalie?
The Knights?
Yeah, no, for golf. Dawes, sorry.
Yeah, Nico Dawes. He was
unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable at playing the puck, right?
He's pretty good.
I heard at one point he took the puck from behind the net, out in front of his net, like basically empty net, stick handled it, and then made a play. Like he kind of pulled a bit of a
what he actually did was, he started with the puck behind the net and he pulled it off to his forehand side, and his team was shorthanded. And so what he tried to do was he tried to clear the zone for his team. He tried to just ice the puck for himself, so that way didn't have to try and make any fancy passes. He just wanted to clear the puck. He actually fanned on it. And it bounced off of somebody and then ended up on his player's stick for a breakaway, and they scored.
No way.
So if you weren't actually looking and paying that close attention, it looked like he made a sweet outlet pass and the guy got a breakaway and scored. It actually was a fanned on pass, and then his guy chipped it to center and the guy got on a breakaway. So it ended up working out really well, but that's one of those situations where it was the right play. He had an opening. The Knights guys were putting pressure on all the Guelph guys to try and keep the puck in the zone, and he saw an opening and tried to clear it himself, which is a smart play. Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about more of the development side. That's kind of why I wanted to chat with you. Obviously, your story is really cool, and I think it's a good one for young parents, even to, you know, your young guy loves being a goalie. Why not? Let's get into goalie schools. Maybe he's 12, 13, 14, and that's kind of the age that you're starting to look at kids to be that demo guy on the ice and stuff like that, right? Now, over the years, first of all, let's pick a couple of guys in the NHL. Is there anybody that you like watching in the NHL that you, and not necessarily the style maybe that you teach or you play, but anyone that you have a lot of respect for their game and how they play and a couple of reasons why?
So there's a couple, and I'm always adding guys to this list of guys that I like to watch and take things from. But one of the first ones, the first two that I really, really loved and started to model a lot of my coaching and some of my playing after when I was still playing, were Marc-Andre Fleury and Carey Price. Mm-hmm. Marc-Andre Fleury was just the ultimate competitor. He battled for everything. when he was starting in the league, he was crazy in practices. Like teammates were scoring on him sometimes in practice and celebrating because they didn't get many goals on him in practice. So he's just that ultimate competitor. And he plays a little bit of a different style where he battles and he does things a little unorthodox, but he does it from a very controlled style to begin with. So he starts with easy butterfly saves and making everything look controlled and calm and collected. But then when things kind of get out of hand or go not according to plan, he's able to battle, scramble, and make some unbelievable saves that other people aren't able to make. And to be able to play both those styles and combine them into one is amazing. It's you see a lot of goalies on opposite ends of the spectrum that way, where you see another one of the goalies that I love watching is Carey Price. He's so technical, he's so tactical, and he's so calm, cool, and collected in everything that he does that he makes the game look super easy.
Oh yeah.
And then the other side of the spectrum was like a Tim Thomas type guy that had barely any technique and it was just all scrambling, all battling, and just doing whatever he could to throw a body part in front of the puck. So Marc-Andre Fleury seemed like a little bit of best of both worlds in that way. And that's why I really loved him, watching him from juniors all the way up. And Carey Price, the reason why I love him is exactly what I already alluded to. He just makes the game look so easy, and he does everything that you want to teach young goalies how to do. So he's the perfect guy to tell a young goalie to go home and watch.
Right. Yeah.
Go watch him, because his technique is amazing. It's textbook. It's exactly what you want to teach young goalies.
Yeah. And the thing that always impresses me about Price though is his mental side of the game, man. Like, you could light him up on a night and you would never even know that if you just watched him, you couldn't tell the score. You know what I mean? Like if they just scored 5 and they just knocked in the 6th one, he's pissed obviously, but his calmness and demeanor, it's unbelievable, man. Just watching him in net, like not as a goalie guy, but just as a coach or as a skills guy, I'm like, man, his mental part of the game is unbelievable. Exactly.
And that's another reason why he's so good, is because it seems like he doesn't allow any of that to affect him. And it's very rare that you see Carey Price lose his temper, right? And it's exactly what you alluded to. It seems like he's always at the same level. He's never getting himself too excited and too high after a huge save, even though he makes highlight reel saves on a nightly basis. And he's ever not getting too low. He's never too upset, too down on himself, or too upset when he lets in a bad goal. It's everything seems to be the same the entire time. And that helps him stay at that same level and play at that same level and do the exact same things for every single play in the game. And that is becoming a huge part of goaltending right now. There are so many things out there online right now, books being made, Goalie Camps actually including mental training in a lot of their camps now, a lot of their summer programs, recommending guys to sports psychologists to get in more of that mindset of how do you remain calm so that way you're playing your best at all times. You're not getting too excited, too jittery where you're jumping all over the place, and you're not getting too low where you're not into the game at all either. How do you keep yourself at that mental peak where you are the best that you can be at all times? Yeah, which is huge. And I think for players too, I think any athlete, obviously, in hockey, maybe not late to the game, but you think of golfers, tennis players, they've been doing this stuff for years with mental coaches and all that kind of stuff, sports psychology. And I think hockey's maybe done it hiding a little bit. It's way more out in the open now, which is awesome. And you see so many more players and goalies that are using mental coaches. And, I was talking to Natasha Wesh she came in for a podcast, and she does sports psych and mental toughness and all of that stuff, mental training. And the way she explained it, obviously, is like another muscle. Like you train your biceps, you train your legs, you train your core, you train your mind. And the stronger your mind is and the more prepared your mind is, the better athlete you're going to be, which makes 100% total sense. But more kids, I think at young ages too, at 10, 11, 12, if they're really elite at something, it's not a bad thing for these parents to start looking and searching out good mental performance coaches and help your kids get some tools to deal with that breakdown that they might have, or that bad game, or that bad series of 5 games. And how do you overcome that? How do you get out of it? And I think it's a huge, huge part of the game. Exactly. And there's so many different parts of it, just like you just alluded to with how do you get out of a bad funk? Like, how do you switch your mind around to I've been playing 2 or 3 bad games. How do I get back to playing those good games and forget about the bad stuff? There's also a lot of different aspects of it, of like pregame routines. Like, how can I mentally get myself ready for a game half an hour before a game so that I'm in that right mindset? How do I keep myself in that mindset during the game? Like, not get distracted by the girls up in the crowd, or where mom and dad are in the crowd, and knowing where they are and getting their opinion from them during the middle of a game. How do I keep concentrated on just the game? And then post game, same thing. Like how do I remember the performance I just had so that way I can repeat it, right? And there's so many different aspects of it, and different ways that you can start training mentally. And one huge one that I've been starting to tell kids over the last couple of years is try to get away from negative thoughts. So there are ways that you want to think about playing, and there are ways that you want to think about not playing, and you don't want to think about those things to not do. So for example, if you say, I don't want to let in a bad goal, or last time I played this team, they scored 6 on me, I can't let in 6 again. So you're thinking of all the negative things, and you're thinking, I don't want to do the negative things. But your brain doesn't understand the difference between a negative thought and a positive thought. It just thinks about that thought. So for example, if you say, don't think of a big green squirrel, your brain's automatically going to think of that big green squirrel, and then you have to tell your brain, don't think of it.
I've got a sick one in my head right now.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally,
right. And so instead, what you want to think of is all the positive things that you want to do. I'm going to play well today. I'm going to be the first star of the game. I'm going to make a huge glove save today. So all you're putting in your head are all the positive, good things that you want to do. And that's going to get you to think more positively throughout the entire course of the game, and not think about the things that you don't want to do, because getting those negative thoughts in your head actually make those negative thoughts possibly come true.
Yeah.
So there's so many different ways that you can go with that.
Yeah,
you said, getting out of a slump, or how do I do things in game to make sure I'm staying in that level, or how do I prepare the day before, or what should I actually just physically be thinking about during the course of a game? Well,
one thing I've always wanted, I would love asking goalies this. I'm going to ask you this. I'm a defenseman. I could just get beat, get walked, and they score. It happens to me 3 times in a row. Every time it happens to me, I can come to the bench, get feedback, talk to my buddies. Hey, don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll get them next time. What do goalies think about in the net? Like, what kind of self-talk? Like, if you think back when you played and there's like a breakdown in the D zone, and you see these guys coming down 3-on-1 or 2-on-1 or breakaway, like what kind of things go through a goalie's head when this happens? Because I know what will go through my head, but I'm not a goalie. So after seeing it from like novice to Adam to Pee Wee, what kind of self-talk goes through a goalie's head when stuff like that happens? Or you're scrambled in your zone for like, a minute and a half, and you're bagged that you've been in a squat for 35, 40 seconds.
The honest answer is, oh crap. Like what am I going to do here sometimes? Right. Or, okay. The more professional thing of what should you be thinking about?
No, I want to be like, oh shit. Oh, here it comes. Oh no.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. It's what am I going to do here? I really wish I had my better defenseman on the ice. I really wish that these guys would just clear the puck out. And sometimes you're just screaming at them, clear it, ice it. I don't care. Like whatever, just get it out. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like even with the rules where you can't change on an icing, it doesn't matter. Just ice it, get it out. Let's get a whistle so we can get set up again and so sometimes your brain's just scrambling, but what you should really be thinking about, or like you said, like the goalie doesn't get to go back to the bench and get feedback from anybody. And even if they did, how many goalie guys are actually on the bench? They're going to be able to give you
proper advice.
Like,
if I don't worry about
exactly.
it.
Like how many teams have the goalie coach on the bench?
Yeah,
like almost none. Yeah. Right. So you wouldn't be able to go back and get advice anyways, even if you were going to the bench at like TV timeouts or anything in the game, you're not going to get that advice. So you just have to rely on your own advice. You have to rely back on your own training and know, okay, when a 2-on-1's coming, you got to tell yourself that I got the shot, and help your teammate out, help your defenseman out, tell them, take the pass, I got the shot. So just constantly self-talk of, like I said, positive things, and leaning back on your training of what did I learn about this situation, and what should I be doing in this situation, and how can I help other people out in the situation to get me out of the situation.
Oh, I love it. One thing too, and you see this a lot at the pro level, and then kind of trickling down to the junior, and then even some minor hockey, but not a ton of minor hockey. And I'm going to assume this is something that you talk to your goalies about, but would being a vocal teammate on the ice be helpful for that self-talk, right? So for instance, 2-on-1's coming in, the goalie, 12-year-old goalie says, I got shot. D knows he can fade a bit to the pass, take away the pass. The goalie's got the shot covered. Or, hey, man in front, when the puck's in the corner, letting that D know, hey, there's an open guy in front, or high slot, like whatever that is. But you're engaged in the game as a goaltender, probably allows you not to just think and have that big green squirrel in your head the whole time, and just, is that advice that you guys, that goalie coaches give to goalies now? Like, you should be like a defenseman. We preach to the team all the time as coaches to talk, call for passes, talk, tell your buddy he's got time, tell him he's under pressure. But are we, and I'm guilty of this probably too, but are we talking to the goalies about talking to their teammates?
You should be.
Yeah.
Definitely should be. Yeah. It should be, as soon as the goalie knows the right thing to do in that situation, he should be talking and helping his teammates to understand what their job is in that situation as well. So, on a 2-on-1, exactly. I got shot. Or you can yell, take the pass. One of those two would help. 3-on-2 situations, same thing. Like find the open guy there, right? And just tell him, like yelling at somebody, take the trailer, or screens out front was another perfect example. Like clear the screen. I can't see.
Yeah.
Something, just anything that can help your defense know what you want from them. Because if not, they might not know.
Or they're sleeping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might not remember. They might not be in the right spot. They might not see that guy on the back door. And by you telling them he's there, it could get that guy covered. And then all of a sudden that guy's not open for a backdoor tap in. So yeah, you guys have to be the eyes for your defenseman as well, because you're back on that goal line. You can see everything coming towards you, and you might be able to help somebody out that didn't see something there. So yes, as soon as they're able to recognize certain plays and know what their jobs are in certain situations, they should definitely be helping out and yelling and talking. And that should go both ways. Not enough teams work on goalie D transitions and communication in that aspect as well. So I teach my goalies all the time in private lessons and in practices and everywhere I go, starting at anywhere around age 10, we will start puck handling. And goalies going out of the net is something that they're always concerned about. They're afraid to do it. They're afraid of screwing up. But one major thing that can really help is when coaches work on goalie D transitions in their team practices. So you have your 6 defensemen, you have your 2 goalies down at one end of the ice. They're stopping a dump in. Have the D-man come back, and they should be talking and communicating, because when a goalie's stopping a dump in, most of the time their head is going to be down watching that puck coming in or looking back at the boards, and they can't see what's happening behind them. So the D-man yelling, leave it, right? Here, D, whatever your call words are for your team, for your different outlet passes or leaving the puck, should be worked on with your D and your goalies, so that they're used to hearing from one another and they're used to hearing those calls and then knowing what to do in those situations. But a lot of times coaches just expect goalies to go stop a dump in and then expect a transition to happen perfectly. Well, if that D-man's not yelling to leave it, that goalie's got to now look, put his head up, see what's coming, and then know if he's going to leave it or pass it. And that takes away valuable time from when he could be doing what he should be doing. If it's a leave it, he's allowed to just get his butt right back in the net. If it's a pass, then he's got to be looking for that pass. But once again, if they don't tell him and nobody's communicating with him on which one to do, they don't know. And then valuable time's wasted, and defense are slowing up, and then the forechecker's right on them, and they're stopping the puck like they're supposed to, but maybe that transition is not as smooth as it should be. So goalie D communication is another huge one that does not get anywhere near enough work in team practice formats.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And I think we always preach to players, forwards and defense, you want a better slap shot practice, you want a better wrist shot practice, you want a better hand stick handle in the driveway. Well, I'm big on telling goalies this too, and I'm sure you are as well, but shoot pucks at home.
Sure.
Get puck board, shoot pucks at home, stick handle pucks. Like having a goaltender that can handle the puck is like having another defenseman. So if you got a goalie that can get that puck behind the net and move it to the hash marks right away, now you're out of your zone. You're not spending more time below the hash marks in your own zone, which is massive. And as goalies get older, like Dawes the other night, like he's going to go for that ice on a if he has time on a PK, and I think that is huge, especially as goalies get bigger and stronger, obviously. But going back into minor hockey, so let's say I've got a 7-year-old goaltender who decides he wants to play net. I'm a father. I have no idea about goaltending. Maybe I played defense. Maybe I never played hockey before. What would your advice to them be as far as maybe that 7, 8, 9 transitioning from D or forward to goaltender? What would the steps kind of 1, 2, 3 be? So he's got his gear, he's got his face mask, he's got his neck guard, he's got everything he needs. Now what?
Skating.
Okay.
Number one thing, goalie specific skating. You have to get those basics down in order to do anything as a goalie. So if you don't have good feet and you can't move around the crease well, you're not going to get into position to make saves.
So my kid's a sick skater as a defenseman, right? So like let's just say, right, or a forward, doesn't matter. Really, really good, but he wants to play net, So I put him in net. So when you say goalie specific skating, I understand what you mean, but what were a couple of like those key things like shuffling, getting sliding, things like that,
so
right?
The 4 things that I always concentrate the most on are shuffling, T-push, sliding butterflies, and your power push or shimmy, which is the push when you're already down in your butterfly and not getting up and just pushing while staying down on the ice.
So pushing off that inside edge to slide across. And then shuffling, basically you're on both your skates on your edge, just kind of slide, like fall into play.
Both edges stay facing forward and you're moving laterally side to side.
Okay.
T-push is when you turn your one foot and point in the direction that you want to go.
And that'd be a longer segment,
one,
right? Like a longer spot. Okay.
Yep. And then a sliding butterfly is where you go from your feet down to your knees for a long slide across.
I'm just taking notes, so when I open up my goalie school, I got all the lingo down.
So yeah, those would be the first 4. And you want to get those down. I know it's boring for the goalies a lot of the time, but you have to be able to get in position in order to make a save, right? Otherwise you're just laying down, flopping and scrambling all over the net. So getting into position is the the biggest first step. After that, rebound control. So shooting pucks at them where they're controlling their rebounds, not just saving them. They should be holding on to them. So shots at their midline where they're sucking in and holding up against their chest. Shots up to the glove, watching into the glove, closing, controlling. Off the blocker, directing it to the corner, and then off the stick to the corner. And if you can just work on skating and rebound control, if those are the only things you have time for in every practice that you do, perfect. That's fine. I even at the Bantam midget level in minor hockey, if you only get 10 or 15 minutes at practice, those are the two things I recommend you do every single practice, because you can never be good enough at those two things. Never.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it's great. And with younger kids, you know, you have these young, like tykes that are just rotating goaltenders like you did, right?
Yep.
Realistically, I mean, and this is just me talking as kind of a parent or a coach, but like, just have fun, enjoy the position. You can't even hold a glove up really yet. You can't squeeze the palm on a glove for the most part, right? So just enjoy it. Let a couple pucks hit you. Nothing's going to be probably very high. A couple flip shots might go by you, but just kind of have fun with it, right? And
then, when they're just starting, when they're switching around and they're alternating in, do fun stuff. Play some little games with them. Some little competitive games where you're trying to count saves versus goals and just whatever. Just having fun little game time with them is great. And then, like you said, once they're actually serious about being a goalie at that 7, 8, 9, and they want to start being goalie full time, that's when we start getting into a little bit of the skating and the rebound control stuff. But yeah, the first little while, same as any kid, just let them enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do to enjoy it, let them do it.
Yeah. Now, are there some fundamentals that you like to go through with goaltenders? So for instance, you know, let's say I'm talking about skating with a player, or how a player, like the style a player plays. Everyone plays a different style. And for me as a skills coach, it's not about putting one player into another style. It's working within their style and what they are. Maybe they're super athletic. Maybe they're super tight. You know, maybe they can't get long strides yet, you know, so making them aware that this is what they need to do to get better, but kind of working within their style of play and how they skate and things like that. So for goaltenders, how does that work as far as kind of assessing them a little bit, working on the skating, the rebound control? But then how do you kind of designate a style, and what types of styles are there for goaltenders? Meaning, like I've just heard terms like blocking goalie.
No, you're right. Yeah.
You know,
there definitely are different styles. So there's the more technical goalie, like I said, that's like a Carey Price that does everything really controlled and makes 95% of his saves as a standard butterfly format. And then there's goalies that are a little more dynamic, right? And they call them really athletic goaltenders, and goalies that make big split saves.
The guy in my head right now is like Jonathan Quick. He's like sliding across the crease.
Perfect.
And
yeah, Jonathan Quick's exactly like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He makes a lot more acrobatic saves as well as those technical saves. So yeah, there's a couple different styles, and everybody's going to fall a little differently on that spectrum. And some of the best goalies fall right in the middle where they're able to do both. So when I'm teaching it, I try and find out what they like to do and what type of goalie they are. And then I will slowly work with them to develop that style like that NHL goalie would do as well. And then also try and build up the other aspect that they're weaker in order to get it a little closer to center. I don't want to change their whole game. That's never what I'm going to try and do. Never. I'm never going to try and say, okay, well, you play like Jonathan Quick, I want you to be Carey Price. That's not, it's not the way you have to teach somebody, but you can introduce more of those aspects to bring them a little back towards the center so they're not that far off. So you probably, there's only one Jonathan Quick, right? There's other guys that try and imitate it, but he's been the only one that's been successfully able to do that over the past few years.
Yeah, and a lot of these goalies kind of change I don't want to say change, but probably develop their style. So like Quick isn't as sliding into the corner to make a glove save anymore. You know what I mean? He's a little more established in his net. Right. Exactly. So he changed and developed his style a little bit to suit, aging obviously, but being more efficient, things like that as well. So I'm sure it's the same at the minor hockey level where goalies are maybe super athletic sprawling, or like a Dominic Hasek. And then you're like, hey, we got to tighten this up and be a little bit more composed. Right. So yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely what I try and do with a lot of goalies. And then the opposite, and the opposite's true as well. If they're a goalie that just likes to do a butterfly in one spot and doesn't battle for rebounds and doesn't make some of those crazy saves, okay, well, let's build some of that craziness into your game so that way you can make some of those saves if you have to. So yeah, it's all about finding what style they are and trying to not necessarily veer them away from that, but just give them more of the other aspects as well, so they become a little more of a rounded goalie rather than just one end of the spectrum.
Yeah. So I'm a dad, young goalie, same thing, 9 years old, just starting to play. I'm working on his skating, or his coach is working on his skating in practice, and he's got a goalie coach that goes out, and But I'm working with him at the outdoor rink as well. And I want to give him a couple pointers, like glove up, glove down, blocker on your hip. Like I have no idea. So what are some key things that like a dad or a mom can say to their kid as far as just like, hey, I'm going to go outside at the outdoor rink or tennis ball, shoot balls at them. Like, what are some things that they could be like, okay, make sure that your glove is not facing the sun, your gloves, things like that. Like, is there anything that kind of comes to mind that's just like real simple tips to keep, kind of a goalie's little fundamentals in check, I guess?
Yeah. You just you want them to be athletic. You want them to be in sort of a relaxed athletic position where they're not rigid in any way. Their legs aren't straight. So you want them to be bent a little bit, feet just a little wider than shoulder width apart. If they're getting too wide, then it's harder for them to push. If they're standing up too hard, same thing. You got to bend more before you get that power to push. So just sort of a nice knee bend athletic stance. You want to make sure that your glove and blocker are out in front of your body. So you don't want your glove and blocker to be attached to you in any way when you're in your stance. So having them out in front allows you to get a good view of them in your peripheral vision, so you can see them a little bit. Even when you're looking forward at the puck, you can still see them out at the bottom of your vision, and that allows you to see where they are in space and move them a little bit better. And yeah, your glove, for example. The glove is one thing that goalies change a lot and will always have a different area where it is. Some goalies like their fingers up high and their glove up high. Some will like it down low. Some will like it in turn a little bit. It's sort of where you're the most comfortable, but the same principles apply. You want it out, not touching another part of your body, and it should be facing the play in right. Somewhat. You don't want to be carrying it so it's facing up, and you don't want to be facing right down towards the ice. Somewhere where it's facing where the puck's going to be coming from is going to be helpful. So just generally a general athletic stance where they can move easily and everything's sort of out in front of them so they can see things coming in towards them would be the best sort of advice on their stance. And then their movements, try and make things just fluid. You don't want to be trying too hard, but you don't want to be not trying hard enough, if you know what I mean. You don't want to be trying so hard that you're moving way too fast that things become sloppy. You want to be controlled and you want to be calm in your movement. So I always tell goalies you move as fast as you can where you're doing everything perfectly. So if you can move really fast, but your arms are flying all over the place, you look sloppy and uncontrolled. So if you can keep those arms in a good spot, your head in a good spot, and still move 95% of that speed, that's what you should be moving at. That makes you look the most calm and controlled in everything that you do. And it makes your movements look a lot more fluid rather than choppy and sloppy.
No, that's good, man. And there's obviously a lot that's come out about this in the last 2-3 years with tracking the puck. Mm-hmm. And eyes on the puck, obviously, but leading with your head and your eyes first and your body follows, different things like that. But even for a young kid, like working on, trying to catch pucks and trying to use their blocker to steer pucks to the corner. You're obviously tracking the puck. And I remember because I'm old, but coaches saying like, watch, throw your eyes in the top corner because goalie's looking at your eyes. Like if a goalie's looking at my eyes, I can't see that happening. Right. So what goes into tracking and getting young kids to start kind of being absorbed by the puck as far as following that puck and kind of tracking that puck around the area, around the net, I guess, area.
Yeah, it's all about just following the puck. It's about moving your head and trying to watch it anywhere that it goes. So a lot of times in Hockey Canada presentations and stuff and in the goalie curriculum, they talk about eyes first. And so what they mean by eyes first is that whenever you want to move in a direction or you want to make a save in a certain direction, your eyes should be going there first. So if I want to move to my glove side, for example, my head and my eyes are going to look over in that area first. So that way I can see exactly where I want to go to. It's a similar thing with driving. When you're driving and you're making a turn, you want to be looking at the direction that you want to be turning into. You're not going to be staring straight ahead and turning the wheel to the right. You got to be looking where you're going, and that helps your body move everything in that direction. Your brains are amazing things, and they'll move your body in the direction that it needs to go when you're looking at that direction and what you're doing without you specifically telling it exactly what to do. So if you're looking at something, your body's going to adjust in the proper manner to get in that area. So eyes first is a huge thing. You want to look over where you're going, move in that area, and then make your save. And when you're making your save, you want to try and same thing, follow it with your eyes. Once you get up to a certain level, sometimes that's not possible. So what you're doing is you're trying to track it off the stick. You're trying to look at the shooter's stick position, their hand position, their body position. And from all those things, when that puck gets a foot or two off the stick, you're getting a good idea of where that puck is going to be going at the net. If it's slow enough at the younger ages, you can turn your head and physically follow that puck right into your glove or right off your body or somewhere. Once they start getting up to higher speed shots, you're just intelligently guessing based on how it's coming off that stick, and then your eyes will catch up to it once it hits you. So let's say the same thing. The shooter's shooting up to your glove or off your blocker. And once they shoot that puck, you track it off the stick. You're making that sort of guess as to where it's going to be in that area. You make that save with your blocker. You feel it on you. Your eyes are able to get to that area because you felt it and get to that area. And then you're watching for it once it goes off of you again. So once again, eyes first on the puck, and then your body's going to be adjusting and moving again after it. So yeah, they make a big deal about tracking and following that puck right in. But at certain shot speeds, you physically cannot follow it anymore. So you're tracking it in that first couple of seconds when it comes off the stick, and then you're tracking it again once it goes off of you and following it to where you need to go next.
And this is where for young goalies, I think where technique is really important, right? So if you're technically, let's say you're off your right post and there's a guy with a puck there and he passes east-west, dot to dot. I mean, tracking the puck across on the pass is probably not that hard, like as far as, seeing it. But then if that guy one times it, I mean, you're not going to see that puck. You can't see it on TV unless they slow it down. So on that shot, you're making a positional save. You're coming in, it's going to be roughly how it came off or how the guy's positioned, that it's going to be coming high at like a high part of the net. So I cover, you know what I mean? Like, and a lot of times you see these 6 saves that are unbelievable, and there's no way that goaltender tracked that puck into their glove, which I think for me as like being, a dumb goalie guy, no idea. You hear this term though, followed into your glove. You're going to follow 100 mile an hour one-timer in your glove. There's no way.
No. So, and one thing that I work with a lot with goalies is positional play. So we work on getting into the right position and hoping the shooter hits you. Right.
Yeah.
And if you get into a really good spot and you have a really good, stacking where you have your pad flat, you have your glove out in front, but just over top of your pad, you're creating a nice wall from the top of your glove down. And so you're forcing that shooter to now raise it over top of your glove, but underneath the crossbar. So you're giving him a tiny window that he can hit. Now, once again, you're trying to get a glimpse of it coming off that stick and where that shooter's shooting. So a goalie will start with a good stacking position where they'll be coming across, covering the entire bottom of the net, the bottom half of the net. And then if they see that release and that shooter looks like he's shooting high, they'll kind of guess and raise that glove slowly and just try and get it a little bit more in that middle to upper part of the net, because they know from just looking at the shot that that's the kind of area that he was aiming for. And it looks fantastic on TV. It looks amazing. But a lot of those saves are a little bit of guesswork.
For sure.
A little bit
definitely.
of guesswork.
And when you say move your glove slowly, you mean basically move your glove really quickly, but in a small area.
In a small area, exactly.
Because I'm thinking of a goalie just coming to like old school flailing, flailing that glove and catching it and looking sick.
Yeah, so they start low. They start with a bottom coverage of the net, and a lot of shooters know that goalies are going to do that as well. They're going to come across, cover the bottom half of the net. So I got that upper window to score in. So they'll come across starting covering that bottom, and then exactly like you said, quickly, but in a small area, just getting it to cover that small area up there and trying to time it that because will be there at the same time.
I know for us, when we're teaching, one-timers and one-touches around the net, everything is getting it up over the pad minimum, because most goalies are going to have to get across in a butterfly. They're going to seal off the bottom of the net. You can still score along the ice if you're quicker than the goaltender, but if you get that puck up, you got a way better chance of scoring a goal, right? I always encourage players to, and I ask a lot of players, do you ever talk to your goalies? Like, and ask your goalies, what's a hard shot to stop? And a lot of times when I'm with teams, I'll pull the goalies in, obviously, with the team, and I'll ask the goaltenders, hey, is it harder to stop a puck when I move it a little bit and shoot it, or if I'm just pushing it and shooting it? Well, obviously, when you move it, it's harder. Okay, players, like, get movement on your puck. Pull that puck or push that puck. Add something to it before you release it. Makes it harder for the goalie to pick up. But as goalies get older into their playing in minor hockey, let's say, shot's going to be harder. The shot selection is going to be way better. Now they're dragging pucks, they're pushing pucks, they're making little moves. What kind of adjustments are goalies making as they're going up, levels? Let's say we got a goalie that's playing A hockey at Bantam or AAA at Bantam. What kind of adjustments are they making as they're going from kind of that peewee to Bantam shots to minor midget shots to major midget shots?
Same thing. It's at that age, you're telling them to start adjusting the puck. At that age, we're telling them to start looking for adjustments to the puck. So when a player pushes it to the outside or pulls it to the inside, like Austin Matthews is so good at that little drag snap, right? Mm-hmm. As soon as you see that move from a player, you have to make a small adjustment in where you're standing on your angle, or know that when that shot's coming, I can't just drop straight down in my butterfly. I now have to shift in my butterfly. And instead of going straight down, I'm going to go down, not a full sliding butterfly way over to that angle, but I'm just going to drop slightly over to make the adjustment for that 1 or 2 feet that shooter's now adjusted that puck over left or right. So it's the exact same thing. As soon as you guys start trying to teach them that and they start seeing that and start seeing more of those pushes and those pulls before they shoot, that's when we start teaching the goalies the same thing. You got to make small adjustments. When you go down, it can't always be straight down. If that player's making that quick adjustment, you've got to make that quick adjustment on your butterfly as you're going down to get over onto that new angle. So very similar. It's all about getting to that different angle. And when shooters are smart trying to adjust that angle, we have to try and match that.
For sure. One thing too, like with young goalies going through minor hockey, let's say, what would you recommend? So as when they are younger, I know, and being conscious of budget and money and financials, because it doesn't get expensive whether you're doing privates with the skill coach or goalie coach. And if you're going to do that for 7-8 years, once a week, it's a lot of money. So let's say bang for your buck or the most, amount of development that you can get for a good budget. Would you recommend kind of younger or bigger camps for younger ages to begin, kind of get some of those fundamentals in bigger groups, a lot more affordable? And then would you continue doing that through minor hockey, or would you suggest at a certain age if you're really serious about it and you're a good goaltender and you really want to elevate your game, doing a private? Because even a private piano lesson would be way better than taking a full class piano lesson. So no matter what it is, that one-on-one's huge if you have a good coach. But at what age would you recommend just doing full camps, getting some technique and basics down, and then kind of migrating into privates or small groups even?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's going to be a lot dependent on budget. Always the most bang for your buck, if you are a hard worker, is a camp. Mm-hmm. Because as you know, with your camp prices compared to your private lesson prices, you might be able to do 20 hours of on ice at a camp for the same price as 4 private lessons.
Sure.
Right? So you're getting 20 hours on the ice versus 4 hours on the ice. Now, those 4 hours on the ice, yes, you can specifically target things that you really need to work on. So if you've been having trouble with something, yes, those private lesson hours, we can break that down and specifically work on that exact situation. In a full week camp format, you're probably going to touch on that same situation, maybe 1 or 2 out of the drills that you do throughout the course of the week, maybe a little more depending on what it is. But you can get a lot more out of 20 hours just by working hard when you're not in the net. So for us, we tend to have normally 3, max 4 goalies per net at our summer camps. And while that one goalie is in the net, we encourage the other kids to do work on the side. You can pick a partner and work on your passing together. You can work on your sliding butterflies. You can work on your shuffles, your shimmies, and do whatever off to the side and kick your own butt for that time when you're not in the net. So that ice time's not necessarily wasted just because there's more kids on the ice. It's all how you use it and make the most out of that. So if they're making the most out of it and kicking their own butt and then doing the drills when they're in the net, bang for your buck, you're going to get more out of a camp.
Yeah.
Private lessons, yes, you can focus on a lot more. You can get your butt kicked for an entire hour by yourself and be exhausted at the end of that 1 hour. Maybe you're not as exhausted at the end of a camp hour, which is completely fine. But so it's kind of what you're looking for and what you want. But I always recommend that even if you are going to do private lessons, let's say like every week or every other week for the entire year, do a camp still in the summer. Get that experience of being on the ice with other goalies where, like I said earlier, you can learn from those other older goalies that are there. You can pick up other techniques from other kids that are around the same age as you that, hey, I never thought about doing that. Why are you doing that in this situation? That's a sweet save. How did you do that? Where'd you learn that? Where did that come from? You can learn a ton of other stuff from those other people and all the other instructors that are on the ice, and not just me. There could be another instructor that teaches you something that I didn't think of or that I haven't worked on with you before that you've now gained another person's insight and another thing that you can add to your game. So overall, even if you do a ton of private lessons, and those are great, you can pick specific things that you want to work on. I always recommend still going to a camp as well, because you can always get a ton out of it. Now, back to your question about what age should you start them at? It varies. It varies. When you're younger, I wouldn't recommend doing as many because they're going to get real tired real quick. A lot of them, they can't make it through the whole hour sometimes. And they also, they don't need as much of it. They're not able to absorb as much information when they're younger. So you could tell them the exact same thing and do the exact same private lesson for a month straight, and they still might not pick up on it because they're having a hard time absorbing that information sometimes, and or they're thinking about other things, or they just want to go home and play Fortnite or whatever they want to do. So it's sometimes hard at that younger age, but if they have something that really needs to get worked on, sure, get a private lesson or a semi-private lesson and get that one or two little skills fixed, and then go back and see if it works for the next month or so at your team practices and your team games, and see if we fixed it. And if not, maybe try another one. But yeah, once they start getting a little older, a lot more private stuff to keep you on game throughout the season, because they don't get a lot of it at practice.
Yeah, for sure. A couple more things. So if you're looking for a good skills coach, a good, goaltending development coach, what would you recommend parents look for in that? So I live in Barrie, Ontario. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I'm looking for a good goalie coach. Are there any suggestions that you would give, like word of mouth, looking at brochures, looking online? Like how would I seek out someone that's decent, or find someone that's going to be beneficial for my son or daughter?
Word of mouth is always a great way. Find somebody that people have had great experiences with. Find a guy that has been doing it for a while and has moved some kids on. Some sort of credentials, whether it's they played pro hockey before or a school teacher, right? I find that having some of those credentials helps because they know how to teach. They know what they're supposed to be doing. Somebody that's been there before and done that is a great way too. But yeah, word of mouth is usually a great way. Find somebody else that has had good results with somebody, that not just in the coaching aspect of it, like have they made my goalie an awesome goalie, but are they a good person as well? Somebody that's going to teach your kid not only goalie lessons, but life lessons, and be a good person to them, right? Not necessarily somebody that's just going to be a drill sergeant and run them through drills for an hour and then see you later, leave the rink and run away without talking to you, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So find a good person.
Yeah.
Find a good person. So word of mouth is always a great way. Talk to some other people and find out who the best person in your area is, but all around that's going to make your kid the best individual.
One thing I tell parents a lot of times about private lessons, they're more expensive. Definitely can get a lot more done in that hour with your son or daughter in whatever position it is, if they're willing to learn. And always make sure that your son or daughter is into it. Like, you're not bringing them there because you want them to get better, because they want to get better. And the other thing too, there's another piece of it that I never even knew about until I started doing it, but the confidence piece. They trust Jason. They go out with Jason every week or every second week, and it's a fun hour of getting some critiques, getting some confidence, getting some, feedback. And I think the whole confidence piece for me was a big one that I never even thought about when I started doing it. But man, yeah, like this young guy is getting more confident in their shot. This young girl is more confident in her skating. Look at her edging, how much better it's gotten. And you get a chance to be around, like you said, a good person who's vested in you for that hour and is following up with you, maybe checking games out. And, I think there's a lot of other elements that come to it. Not just, sometimes I'm sure you're teaching them life lessons. Like, don't bang your post, don't yell at your defenseman, and just little things like that can help a lot on a lot of different areas of their game. Yeah,
I agree. It's not all about hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hockey is going to be a small part of their life. It's going to be a big part of their life for right now. But in the grand scheme of things, it's for most people, it's just going to be a small part of your life. So make sure they're out there having fun. Make sure that they're learning something. But just make sure that they're all around becoming a good person, a good individual, and learning a lot of life lessons as well. Because there's a ton of things that you can learn and take away from the game of hockey. It's not just about how good they get and what level they get to, but it creates a lot of great skills for the person moving on in life. And if you can teach a lot of that stuff and help them out with that stuff while you're coaching them and while you're getting them better at something that they love, it's a win-win for everybody.
For sure. And one thing too that I know this burns you goalie coaches is, what kind of advice would you give to a coach who doesn't have a goalie coach out of practice? Because man, for most coaches, like, targets are in net, let's shoot on the goalies, and there's not really a lot of time or even emphasis on goalies. Like, I know, for instance, example is one thing I really stress to the guys when they're warming a goalie up is shots are from further out and hit the goaltender. Trying to pick corners, just hit him in the glove, hit him in the pads. But what are 2 or 3 kind of high level pieces of advice that you would give to a coach that's coaching a team and has no idea about goalies and for the most part neglects his goaltenders or her goaltenders?
We could do a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
Just this segment.
So let's tease it with this, because we're going to do a follow up with this after the draft. I want to do a follow up with you after the draft. I know you got some young guys that may be going somewhere, and you have some young girls too that you're working with that are having phenomenal little, starting careers in minor hockey and stuff, and may have potential going on. And I want to sit down with you again and talk more about that.
Sure.
And go to that next level. And maybe we'll get into more coaches and what they can do to help out. But what's some kind of just quick bullet points on, hey, coaches, make sure you focus on this, and this with your goalies?
So you touched on a great one for warm up. Like, if goalies aren't getting a goalie coach or somebody out there working on some goalie specific drills to start, they haven't faced anything for the whole beginning of practice. Make sure they're getting warmed up as well. So they can be lower shots. They don't necessarily have to be low. They can go up to the gloves if they're just like nice 50%ers, but let them feel the puck, right? Let them feel the puck a little further out, give them some time and some space. And that's the next one, gap. Always build gap into your drills. If a goalie doesn't have time to make a save and recover and then make another save, you have not given them enough time between shots. If they're down and a second person's already shooting the puck, even if it's right on the same line that they're on, that's already bad enough. But sometimes you got two guys shooting from different angles on the ice. Goalie has absolutely no chance to get over to that, make that second save. And second of all, if they're focusing on the first one, that second guy misses the net by 5 feet and hits him in the side of the head, you're going to end up with a goalie with a concussion out of nowhere. So gap is a huge thing. Make sure they have enough time to at least get up and recover in order to get to that second save before they get that second shot. Okay. If they can have time in a drill to make the save, reposition and recover following that first rebound, or any rebound, that's ideal. But I know for a lot of coaches, they want to have multiple shots and drills, and that's completely fine as long as there's enough gap for them to get up, recover, and get to that next shot. The next thing is, hey, where do we want to go here? Let's stay in practice. Don't let the shooter shoot from the middle of the ice all the time. Like, you can design a drill that has a million twists and turns and 10 give and goes, and it looks awesome in the neutral zone with all the players.
Yeah.
And then that player gets the last pass around the blue line. And what do they do all the time? They take 3 or 4 strides right to the middle of the ice and they shoot from right in between the hash marks, right in the center of the ice. Well, players don't get shots from there often in a game, right? Most of the time they're going out wide around a defenseman or making a move and shooting from somewhere on that face-off dot on the outside, or making a move around a defenseman and shooting from a bad angle. So set up one more pylon deep in the zone and or 2 pylons and make them shoot from between those pylons, or go around that last one before they can shoot. Because by letting a player go right to the center of the ice, that is the best chance that they have to score, because they've made their angle the best. And it's the hardest spot for a goalie to make a save because the net is the biggest there. And you don't often get shots from there in a game. So every once in a while, yeah, if there's a drill where it ends where the shooter gets to shoot from the middle, great. But I showed up to a minor midget practice last year, and 40 minutes, goalie made the exact same save in the exact same spot in the crease for 40 minutes in a row.
It's crazy.
All the flow drills were different. The players are doing different things all hour, but at the end of every drill, the player was allowed to step right into the middle of the ice and shoot from dead in the middle of the slot. And the goalie didn't move all hour. So for 40 minutes straight, he tried to make the exact same save. Saved a lot of them, didn't save a lot of them because, like I said, it's a toughest spot. But you have to vary it up, not only for your players, but give them realistic shooting lanes as well, shooting from different areas, shooting through pylons, like set them up as legs, shooting through a defenseman's legs or something, but give them different areas to shoot on the ice, and don't always make it the middle of the ice. And the last one I'll say is communication with your goalies. Communication.
I think that's huge. Go on with that, Dwayne. That's massive.
Huge. And there's a couple of things that goalies do that get on not only the goalies' nerves, but my nerves and parents' nerves as well. First one is coaches sometimes think that not telling a goalie who's starting until 5 minutes before the game is the best route to go. They think, well, we're going to get both goalies prepared and they're both going to be ready to go. No, you're really only getting each goalie about 75% ready to go, because they're both thinking, okay, I'm going to start. But then they also have that thought in the back of their mind that I might not start, might not be my turn to go, right? So they're not fully getting ready to go. Maybe they're not doing their pregame routines the same. Maybe they're doing things differently before a game and they're not ready to go. Tell the goalie the day before, or at least the morning before, so that way they can get all their pregame routines in and they can get all their nerves out and they can get everything ready and they can get themselves in that mental state to go. If you're letting them know before, they have no excuses to not be ready. If you're only letting them know right before the game, then there's that little excuse that maybe they didn't prepare 100% because they didn't know if they were actually playing or not. Let them have their regular pregame routine and everything that they know, so they can be 100% ready and they have no excuses when it comes to game time. The next thing with communication would be pulling a goalie. I've seen goalies or coaches do it hundreds of different ways. They pull a goalie and stare at him. Pull a goalie, don't talk to him. Nobody talks to him. He just goes and sits down at the end of the bench by himself, is upset. Just whatever the reason is that you pulled him, go over and have a chat with him. And it can be anything. It could be, maybe it was the goalie's fault. Maybe you let in 3 bad goals and you say, hey, it just wasn't your night tonight. We'll get him next time, right? You're letting him know, yeah, it was kind of your fault, but you're not super upset with him. We're going to get through this and you're going to get another chance. So, hey, it just wasn't your night tonight. Let's get him again next time. Let's prepare for next game, right? Or the other way, maybe your team was absolutely horrible and he still lets in 3 or 4 goals in the first half of the game, and you decide to pull him as a mercy pull, so that way he doesn't get 8 shelled on him, but also your team has a chance to maybe step it up and go, oh man, we didn't play well for this guy tonight. Maybe we should step it up and not get embarrassed tonight. And maybe your team has a chance to get back in it. Same thing. Go down and talk to him and let him know it was not your fault tonight. We just did this to hopefully get the team a spark and get them back into it. But chat with them. Chat with them. If they're down there, it can be a lonely area on the bench when the rest of the team is playing a game and you don't get to anymore. And you got to sit there and realize that you didn't do your best tonight.
Yeah, that's tough, man, for sure. Going on that communication piece too. One thing I've done, and I've done this with minor hockey a bunch, and more so with working with older players, but going to talk to the goaltender about a drill I'm doing, and I'll say, hey, give me a stick tap. Like if the shots are too tight and there's not a big enough gap, let me know. Or if you're getting too much volume, like get out of the net, no problem. But giving them those outs so that. Because sometimes, like, especially goalies that are hard workers, they'll stay in there for the whole drill and they're bagged. And that's not doing anything for them. But communicating with the goalies, I think, is huge. One thing that we started to do, and this was the goalie coach in Hershey, started to draw a line at the top of the circles for warm-up. So you got to shoot by that line. So it was good for those shooters to get low to get ready up from the blue line to the top of the circles. But then it was also but you can do that at the hash marks, wherever you want, depending on the age level you're at. But putting like cones or a line or something on the ice that kids have to shoot by there, and giving them marks for that. And the biggest reason why we started doing it there was when you look at shooting, a lot of the shots come from the top of the circle area. So why are guys going to the hash marks to let go a snapper on the rush? That doesn't happen. It's going to get pinched off by then. So shoot where it's realistic, where you're going to find those shots in a game. So minor hockey might be in a little bit just because the shots aren't as hard or whatever, but setting those kind of little milestones or little areas that players are going to shoot from. But I think it's so huge to remember that goalies are a position, even though we don't understand it. Maybe we don't get it. Maybe we don't even respect it. But at the same time, it is a position, and we need to, have.
And they're a huge part of your team.
Massive part.
Huge part of your team,
Massive,
right?
Yeah.
So I get it. A lot of coaches don't know a lot about goaltending.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you just ignore them. Doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want and not. You have to learn a little bit about that position as well. And even if you take a couple of these simple tips and just build them into your practice, it's going to be huge.
It would be a game changer for the goalie, for sure. Okay, last thing. And then I got a bunch more for you for the follow-up. But so all my playing life, I'm sure all your playing life, like, he's a goalie. He's weird. Goalies are just weird. And I think you guys kind of embrace that as a goalie culture. We're like, we're just goalies. We're weird. In your opinion, okay, where does that come from? Why are goalies sometimes a little bit different? I've got a lot of buddies that are goalies that are awesome dudes. When I played with them, they were, a little bit, I don't want to say off, but it's a different position. You're on your own. You're in your own bubble. You're in your own cage for most of the game, or half a cage. So in your opinion, I guess, where did that stigma come from a little bit, or why is it like that?
Well, our
goalie's really weird.
They're a lot more normal now than they used to be. So it came from a long time ago when goalies used to go in the net with barely more equipment than a player would wear.
Just take a beating.
Take a beating, right?
Yeah.
So everybody knows the issues these days with head trauma and all kinds of stuff that, like, who knows? It could have been anything from they could have gotten some head trauma when they were younger. They could have got knocked around too much. They could have taken pucks in weird spots. And you got to be a little bit crazy when you're wearing barely any equipment to get in front of those shots all the time, right?
Even now
when
I watch like these older kids shoot, and I'm like, if somebody asks me to go net right now, I'm like, no way, not a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So you got to think a little bit differently to be taking that abuse every night. And it like I said, it used to be a lot worse that these guys, like, you had to be a little bit crazy to get in there because you're wearing no more than like the hoodie I'm wearing now.
Yeah.
And you're getting 80, 90 mile an hour shots off you, even back then in the NHL.
For sure.
That you're going to get bruises all the time. You're going to get broken bones. You're going to get all kinds of stuff. So to be able to take that abuse night after night after night and keep getting back in there, you had to be a little bit off, right?
Yeah.
And then there's always just goalies tend to do a lot of quirky things and do things differently that you don't necessarily see players doing all the time. So you might make assumptions that they're a little weird because of some of the things that they do, right? So for example, like the Braden Holtby water bottle thing, everybody thought that was a little weird and quirky when he started doing it. But then when it came out why he was doing it, it was sort of a vision training thing. He was trying to watch something and keep himself concentrated in the moment. Everybody understands now. And how many goalies do that these days is insane. Everybody loves the water bottle thing, right?
So I
was watching the Knights again last night, and Brochu, whenever he came to the bench, he'd come to the bench, and the trainer would have a Gatorade bottle set up for him, a water bottle set up for him, and a skate towel, face towel, whatever, set up for him. And every TV timeout, he'd come to the bench wipe his face down with the towel, quick little swig of Gatorade, quick little swig of water, and then you take the skate towel and skate around, wipe himself down, and then come back to the bench, set everything down nicely, and then put his helmet on and go back. Like just weird little routines and quirks and stuff like that. It's just players have a lot of those things as well, but you don't see them a lot on the bench. They do it in the hallways. They do it before the game. They get themselves ready. And so a lot of that stuff just sort of adds to the thought that goalies are weird, that goalies are a little different. And it's just continued on. But I think most of them, for the most part, are a lot more normal these days than they are a little crazy. But to some extent, you got to be a little bit crazy to get behind a 90-mile-an-hour frozen piece of rubber every day.
Definitely. Now the gear, I just want to, this popped in my head here while you were talking, but the gear's come a long way, obviously, and it continues to evolve. When you're sliding across the crease, guy goes, dot to dot, guy one times, it hits you in the chest. Does that hurt?
Not as much anymore. You can
Shoulder?
feel it a little bit.
Yeah.
Certain areas. Yeah. Dawes went down last night with a shot off the collarbone neck area. Okay. And he ended up staying in the game. But yeah, there are definitely soft areas in a gear.
But I mean, that still hurts.
Oh, yeah.
So I know, like, as a player, you get hit and you get, like, I guess it'd be similar to this. Like, you get hit and you tweak something, like, oh man, you play through it. Goaltender as well. The only thing is I can avoid all the other hits in that game. And I can choose not to hit anybody if I don't want to because my shoulder's sore. Like a goalie that stays in the game after taking one off the collarbone, like, you might be getting 3 more of those in the same spot.
Could be.
Right? So you're sliding across the same way you did on the one you took to block the next one or 5 shots later, right? So, like, again, thinking about mentally just toughness and going through that.
Yeah, I'd say the gear's really good these days that unless your equipment isn't really fitting properly, you're going to have 95% of your body covered, right? There are a few spots where you can sort of still take a puck that'll hurt a lot, but you have knee pads now underneath your pants. So there's no gaps between your pants and your leg pads now. There's no gaps really between your pants and your chest protector. They're all either tucked in or over top, overlapping a ton. So unless you take a puck in the back, you're not getting really hit in a dangerous area there. I'd say, that the worst spot is sort of up near the neck and collarbone area where that area is still exposed. There's a gap on a lot of goalies between their chest protector and their helmet. And that can be a real painful spot to be hit. Like you said, that you could get hit there one game and you could have 5 more coming your way.
Yeah.
And you just sort of got to take it. But for the most part, they're a lot more covered than
so basically goalies are way tougher than players.
Way tougher.
Okay. Close. All right, we'll end on that note then. Thanks a lot for popping by, buddy. And like I said, after the draft comes up kind of beginning of April, love to have you back in. And we'll kind of maybe go through a little bit of the guys that that got drafted and some of the reasons why and kind of maybe some of the players that you've seen and how they developed and maybe some stories of goalies that were.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about some guys. You and I both know some guys that we've worked with together at the hockey academy here and in AAA on those teams. So there's a lot of guys that are working their way up through junior and hopefully going to make some moves in the next while here. That'd be fun to talk about.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Cool. Thanks a lot for coming by.
No problem.